Hey, yo.
Hey, yo. Hey, Chico. You
Oh, that fuse is winding down.
you know what they say? Hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
And you got to throw a toothpick.
Man. You know, we had a whole other episode idea, and then this just hit us like a ton of fucking bricks. We had to do our due respect to get this in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sorry if we don't do a proper job giving one of the most important figures in wrestling a proper tribute, but we're on short time. So, here we go. Theme song time.
Ladies and gentlemen,
boss in the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box. Fucking shop with the boss in the box.
You got that badass theme song.
Just perfect. Perfect. Some themes just embody when you heard those break streets. And you know it's time for the bad guy.
I'm gonna leave this on for just another second or two. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 148 of Talking Shop with the Boss and the Box. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This has been, wow, what a news day. We had to change everything up to honor the bad guy. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, whatever you want to call him. We had to get it in.
The diamond stud, as it were. That's right. We tonight are your saddened, somber, sorry co-host duo. I am one half the lunchbox. That's one word, capital L, capital B. Thank you very much. Above me there, you see the one and only beautiful, badass, breathtaking, bountiful body of bullshit and bitches. Brandon the Boss Blacker, man. Like, whew, this, we had a whole different thing worked out for you guys tonight. We were going to spin tails and talk some bullshit, and then about 5 p.m., man, word came across that one of the most important people in the last 30 years of wrestling, in the history of wrestling, and we'll get into that, has left this world as Scott Hall has passed away at the age of 63.
Yeah, I like not to be grim or show any disrespect. I'm happy he at least made it to his 60s. We know all about his struggles that he has been through. We've seen him get help from Diamond Dallas Page, Vince McMahon, the WWE, and all that stuff. But for the last few years, he was clean. He was happy. He was doing the pro wrestling circuits of meet and greets and fan fests and all the other good stuff, and he was just happy living life and being happy and all that good. Sorry, rest in peace, Scott, or rest in power, Scott Hall. Like, and you're right, man. Scott Hall has had more than many different times where he has been a pivotal part in the change of the wave and tide of pro wrestling in mainstream media.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Scott Hall has been there for so many important firsts and big moments and business changing moments, just huge events in wrestling that sometimes go overlooked by the fair weather fan or the casual. It's one of those things where not everybody can ascend to the top of the mountain and be a world champion.
Right.
But not everybody needs to. And that was something, while I do find it criminal that Scott Hall never held a world title in any major organization, it doesn't matter. Like, just like Jake the Snake, it doesn't matter, because everything he did and everyone he touched and every big idea he was a part of, he was a huge part of. And that started, back when he was just a buff guy who was Diamond Dallas Page's muscle as the Diamond Stud in WCW, and he eventually went on to wrestle. And of course, just like the story goes, he wound up in the WWF and off to the races. But I mean, his early days in the AWA, out there brawling with Kurt Hennig and whatnot, he was part of that pack of killers from Minnesota. Your Rick Rudes, your Mr. Perfects, the Road Warriors, all these guys that they just breed different in Minnesota that just don't come from anywhere else. Like I guess through all sports, you have different regions that produce, mass talent at the same time, because iron sharpens iron. So if somebody's great from one area, you're probably going to go look at who they're working with because they're probably great too. And with the AWA being, what it was before the territory days ended, Scott Hall was on a really short list, which I just named, and I forgot the Demolition Boys. Mm-hmm. Like all of these guys came from that area, from Robbinsdale High, if I'm not mistaken. And, they were all on the mats together, and then they transitioned into doing security for Grandma Bees together. And then they transitioned to training for wrestling together. And so many of them just went on to great heights. And that's one of the ones we're here to talk about today, is somebody who came from that neck of the woods.
And it's funny you say the AWA, because back then when he wrestled for the AWA, he had the most 80s pro wrestling name ever. He was Magnum Scott Hall.
Well, that's because he looked just like Magnum TA. And in all reality, he was probably like, they played off that because the fact that, dude, if you want to talk skill, physique, presence, the guy had it. He could have been that next Hulk Hogan that they were looking for had he been there just a smidge earlier. That next Sterling Golden, as it were. It's sadly some of the most talented start their careers saddled with past gimmicks of others.
Yeah, he started early too. Like he started his career in 1984, the year we were born.
The year you were born. I was born in 83.
Yeah, that's right. You're older.
I know, little brother. Shut up.
Yeah, like, I thought that was interesting, like, because, as a little kid, you don't think of anything of that, like, when did they start and all that stuff. I had no idea up until recently that he started the year I was born hanging out in the NWA territories, when territories actually meant a damn thing.
Well, I mean, territory stopped meaning something once you were able to broadcast the whole to the world. But I mean, in the end, none of these guys would become stars without the monopolizing of national television rights by Vince McMahon. Right. But it took him a little longer than the others. Everybody else I just mentioned were already in the major federations by the late 80s. Perfect, Rude, the Road Warriors. Scott Hall was chronologically a step behind his contemporaries, just a little bit. Not by a whole lot, but just a little bit. A few years, but I think that worked in his favor. Because rather than being all these guys' boy, he got to come in and be his own man.
Right.
And that's a blessing in disguise. I'm sure it was frustrating for him to look and see all the others going off into big things. Of course, the Road Warriors, Rude, eventually Perfect, going off into these huge heights while he kind of had to work Japan and kind of come up. But by the time he hit WCW as the Diamond Stud, even though he started out as just muscle, he became a very capable, lovable wrestler. Like he was someone that was really, really good.
Well, yeah, and not to take anything away from his counterparts or anything, like the fact that he was in, those territories for as long as he was, the fact that he was in New Japan and just kind of went all over the world was a little more than some. Like, for example, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, as you do, his best buddy Kevin Nash was a product of WWE, right? I don't remember if Kevin Nash had a WCW run before that.
Yes, he did. He was Vinny Vegas, and he was also Oz.
That's right. Thank you.
Which he got recruited by Shawn Michaels.
Okay. The reason I say that is because Scott Hall was basically super practiced and kind of seasoned by the time he made it to WCW. And the fact that they used him as a muscle, I mean, anything to get on TV, right?
Well, and that didn't last very long. He became a wrestler rather quick, and then he had the whole Diamond Dallas Page thing. He had the Diamond Doll, and there became a time when the Diamond Doll was his, not, DDP's. He actually, at the time, became a bigger star than DDP.
Yeah.
At the time. DDP took a few more years to catch fire, even though he was around. Like, he was just another mid-card guy on WCW TV. The Diamond Stud started being a guy that you were seeing in main events. He competed in my favorite WrestleCrap match of all time, the Halloween Havoc, where they did the Chamber of Horrors match.
What, he was in that?
Yes, he was.
I didn't even remember that. Okay.
And you think about the cast of characters he was in with. El Gigante, Cactus Jack, Sting, Abdullah the Butcher, the Steiners. Like, look at the cast of characters he was around. Not bad company.
No, all legends in their own rights.
Shit, not even in their own rights. Just bona fide. Well, except El Gigante, I mean. Like, I guess that's the one where you can go with in their own right.
If you're not the biggest wrestling fan, just look up Giant Gonzalez in WWE. That's who we're talking about.
I thought it was cool that our boy Matthew Dooley had forgotten about the Diamond Stud and that I got him, because I mean, we're talking about a guy who wears a WWF fanny pack belt.
Yeah.
But hey, and that was what struck up a conversation piece with me. I met him at the Red Hat at your show.
I remember.
Yeah, that was how I met the guy, and I'm like, "Who's the guy with the belts? That's got to be one of your boys." And you're like, "Yep."
Yeah, he's good people.
So, but moving along, of course, at the time WCW just was the B League. Like, don't get me wrong, they had Ric Flair. They had overall viewership and notoriety capacity. They were the B League. And so one day I'm just chilling, watching wrestling on a Saturday morning like I always am. And all of a sudden this vignette starts. And we're not in a studio, we're on the streets of Miami. And the camera pans, this guy sitting at a table eating food, talking about he is Razor Ramon. And when he comes to the WWF, he's going to mess everybody up. Because he's oozing machismo. And he's wearing these giant gold necklaces, which the story they told was those were won by fighting in cages in Cuba. Remember, that was... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that wasn't too far off from the truth at that time frame.
He was not fighting in cages in Cuba.
No, but people were, is what I'm saying.
He's not, what's funny is he's not even Latino. Like, it's just the way he came up with the character was Vince McMahon saw the Diamond Stud, big 6'7" guy. Like, for those of you, look at that picture and see how big he is next to DDP. DDP is not a humongous wrestler, but he's not a little dude. And Scott Hall dwarfs him. 6'7", damn near 300 athletic muscular pounds. And just, had the look, ooze charisma in the ring, but it was always that, what's that one story that's going to make you? What's that one character? And he was the one that asked Vince McMahon, have you ever seen Scarface? And Vince said no. And so he looked over at him and said, say hello to the bad guy. And Vince was just like, I love it. Roll with it. And that is how this character of Razor Ramon was born. He's a Scarface knockoff.
And I just looked it up because I was curious. I was curious how tall DDP was. And DDP's build is 6'5", but I don't believe that.
He might be 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, I mean, judging by the picture.
He might be 6'5". Yeah. I could be an inch or two short on Scott Hall. The point is, Scott Hall is a big motherfucker.
Especially standing next to fucking Kevin Nash, who is, a bona fide 7 foot tall.
Right, and and Scott Hall's not dwarfed by him. No, they're of similar stature, and Razor was bigger, at least more muscular.
Let's see, where is it?
So, we see these vignettes, and then it goes, there's him at the table. There's him pulling up in his car. Look at my car, man. It's a Cadillac, man. Like, going through the market and like taking a plum off the fruit stand, and when he takes a bite out of it, and the guy's like, "Are you gonna pay for that?" He spits it in his face.
The original Carlito gimmick.
Yes. Like, oh, what's funny is if you watch, I don't know if the special's on Peacock, but there was a vignette special, and they talked about the Razor Ramon vignettes, and they said that like that guy took like 8 or 10 like spits to the face.
Oh my god!
To get the take right.
Oh my god, that's terrible. Here, let me get a period piece picture. There you go. Go on.
I mean, and once again, like I said, the story was those chains were won from fighting guys in cages, because this is the WWF cartoon era. So he won by fighting guys in cages, like chicken coops, as it were. And I read all this in my WWF magazine. And he constantly kept talking about how, he was, hard work was for suckers. It's all about, oozing machismo and beating people up. And, even some in the magazine article, he was like basically an old man and him were arguing at the restaurant where the interview was conducted. And the old man called him a vago, a bum. And so, Ramon stood up and threatened to put his head through a table. And as a kid, like, I'm reading this in this magazine, like, holy shit. Like, wow, this guy's a true bona fide badass. And then he walks to the ring and he makes his WWF debut by hitting the coolest looking powerbomb ever. He doesn't just flip them over real quick and drop them on their back. No, he hoists them up, holds them like a cross, like a picture of Jesus carrying his crucifix down the road, and drives them to the mat on their neck.
Now I gotta say,
aptly dubbed the Razor's Edge.
Yeah. And I gotta say, man, as a finishing move, especially for that era, it was flashy, it was grandiose, it was epic and big. But man, typically the setup for that move is probably the most unbelievable, unrealistic thing you could ever do.
Really? More unrealistic than the People's Elbow?
Okay. That's a whole... Okay, if we got to go tiers here, the People's Elbow is easily an S tier, for sure. Like... Oh, man. Like, okay. What I'm trying to say is, as a wrestler, trying to set that up, like, yeah, okay, so... You go into a power... Like, there was a couple different ways he would do it. Like, he would put him in a power bomb formation, put him up, slide him in, get under the pits, and then lift him up and drop him. That's a lot of work. Or if we got him on, like, the top turnbuckle or something, you'd get up right under him and drag him off or whatever. But, like, just the setup for it, it's just a tough sequence.
Do you mean that extra time it takes to hoist him? So did you not like the last ride either?
The last ride was believable just because Taker did it on people who are a lot smaller than him.
it's the same exact premise, and once again, you seem to forget Razor's as big as Taker. Like, he's an inch and a half or two shorter, and he's broader.
That's true. Okay. All right, I'll give you that. I was just saying the sequence of it. It just seemed like a lot to do, is what I mean.
It drug out, but that was what showed off his raw strength. Right. Was what that was trying. I mean, you look at this shot right here, and you see like he's got the chiseled abs, he's got the rib muscle, the huge delts, like huge biceps, like, and look how high that guy is in the air. Like, that's devastating when you come down on that net. And so the point is he usually beat his opponents down, then hit him with this. Because remember, right here, he's smashing jobbers.
Yeah, because I think the Razor's Edge is probably more protected, or as protected of, say, like, Baron Corbin's End of Days. I don't think anybody's ever kicked out of the Razor's Edge that I remember.
I do believe you might be right. I'm not sure if anybody's ever kicked out of the Outsider's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, which move did you throw out there? Has never been kicked out
End
of?
of Days.
Nobody's ever kicked out of the End of
Nope.
Days? I was going to say, I know nobody's ever kicked out of a One-Winged Angel.
Wait, yes.
No.
No, I believe Hangman did.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I'll double check that. But I'm pretty sure nobody. He was the only one who has. But yeah, I'm gonna check that right now because I'm deadly curious now.
Well, I was going to say, I know Okada got a hand on the ropes. But that's not kicking out. That's getting a hand on the ropes. Yeah, Jordan, they're on. We see him in the comments.
We'll get there. Okay. All right, thank you, Google. The only person who has ever kicked out of Kenny Omega's One-Winged Angel in North America is, in fact, Kenny Omega.
Got it. So nobody has kicked out of it. And like I said, even Okada has not kicked out of it. He got a hand on the rope. Different.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't see anything. And yes, Baron Corbin's End of Days has not been kicked out of. Wow.
Didn't know that.
Information. All right. What are Jordan's favorites here? Let's see. Favorite match number: United States JCW Bloody Mania. Okay, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall defeat some guys I've never heard of from JCW. Okay. Sal Tomaselli and Vito Tomaselli.
Dude, the FBI.
Oh, okay. I wasn't recognizing their names. Okay. Because usually you just call them the
Sal and Vito.
Yeah, usually you just call them the FBI. That's
Right. Well, I mean, little Guido and Big Vito were usually who it was, but yeah.
And then I remember Steve Austin versus Scott Hall. I remember that one. And Monday Night Raw.
Well, she's bringing up the episode of Raw, as opposed to I don't really remember Raw. I actually did just watch the WrestleMania match because that is one of my least favorite Scott Hall matches.
And that's kind of.
Hang on, let me let this stupid dog in.
Yeah, and that's kind of when Scott Hall was kind of on his downhill kind of farce going down there. He was having his troubles at that time.
Actually, he was not at that time, but they were playing on it.
Oh yes.
They were kind of utilizing it, which he was not down with because he was recently sober and still very struggling. One of the things they did in the build-up was they Stone Cold taped him to a chair in the fridge and covered his mouth and was pouring beer on him and stuff.
That's right. And then
Scott Hall
he got sick because he was on the medication.
Right, because he was on Antabuse, so he literally almost asphyxiated because he couldn't say shit. And that match in itself just wasn't. It wasn't Razor versus Stone Cold, and it certainly wasn't like, top tier. These two never clashed when it really mattered, and that sucks.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because, I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin Prime, or even Stunning Steve Austin Prime versus Razor Ramon or Prime Scott Hall, oof, that would have been killer, but a couple years too late.
My favorite thing about Scott Hall / Razor Ramon was he was an underrated brawler. He probably throws one of my favorite wrestling punches of all time.
Oh, yeah. Why does wrestling make you sad, Cerrone?
What?
I've never seen somebody come in our show and say that.
Wrestling makes me sad. Is that because there was just a recent death? Or was it just, or is there something else? Are you one of those individuals who desperately wants it to be real? Oh, I understand. Okay, my bad.
Okay, no. I totally get that, Cerrone. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're on the topic tonight is losing the great Scott Hall, So this is a bit of a somber episode, but, We're gonna do it because we we deliver our shows unless we're incapacitated, and B, how are we not going to honor one of the most important legacies in wrestling? So about you, what's your favorite some of your favorite Scott Hall matches, Brandon?
Well, I mean, the matches for me. I mean, we all know my memory is not that great, and coming up on an hour's worth of preparation for this, I'm just like, shit. Um, One of my favorite things that I enjoyed, not necessarily matches, but I loved the just the program that he had with Goldust.
Yes.
Because he is machismo. Okay, he is a man amongst men, and here comes this androgynous one. Excuse me, androgynous. Let's see if I can say that 3 times fast. Um, who comes out and starts feeling up on him, and comes out very flamboyant and very, at the time, as they're saying blatantly, they never said it, like kind of homosexual, or at least giving the vibes towards that. And he's just not down with this, and they're kind of running the whole program, and unfortunately we never got to see a real conclusion to that.
No, because in the end, Scott Hall was so uncomfortable because Goldust did he. It was two things. Number one, Goldust was convincing, and so it felt uncomfortable for him. And Scott Hall also didn't like the reception that the crowd was giving Goldust. They didn't like the fact that they were basing it on homophobia, and basically, in the end, it kind of would make him look homophobic, you know, and that so think of that as being something kind of before its time too, for him to care about that, for him to think, no, this makes me look like a bad person. When in this regard, this was after Razor Ramon turned babyface, because how could you not fucking love the guy? He was so cool. Like, just this big dude, always got a smile on his face, intense, perfect wrestling acumen, and just slithered like a snake. He reminded me so much of Jake the Snake in that way. Like, his promos weren't yelled, they were spoken. His movements were almost languid. Like, when it came time to get after it and he had to chain wrestle and whatnot, he could. But for the most part, his matches were at that slow, methodical, like I said, languid pace, relaxed even. And that was, once again, outside of your Jake the Snake, something nobody had ever pulled off, ever, except Big Daddy Cool.
And Razor wasn't like a big high spot kind of guy. Like, he threw his punches, and like you said, he can chain wrestle and he can do all that stuff. He wasn't fast by any means. I mean, he could kind of pull it out. He kind of reminded me of kind of Orange Cassidy, where Orange Cassidy's kind of in there and he's playing up the role of just kind of being like chill and relaxed, and then all of a sudden he turns on, and when he turns on, it's go time. And then he could bring it back down to the level and then slow it down.
See, here's the way I viewed it more. It was like that monster heel that just kind of beat the shit out of guys at a slow pace. Like, he let him come running out. He'd give him the first shot, and then he just proceeded to ragdoll them. That was how he wrestled jobbers. That was how, enhancement matches, as it were. That was how he wrestled those. But when they started having him get in there with your, Jacques Rougeau and, the Mountie for those days, and IRS. And, oh, shit, I was watching the Rumble 94. Rumble 94. And his match with IRS is just textbook good. Like, there's not a whole lot of flip-flop and fly. There's not a whole lot of ridiculous hard impact. It's just two dudes utilizing the art of selling a fight, making you believe it, and telling a good story of more athletic competition than anything.
I got a fun fact for you, something I found out a couple hours ago.
Okay.
Ted DiBiase versus Razor Ramon was Ted DiBiase's final match.
Correct.
And
Correct. I saw that a few hours ago too.
and we're not talking about that battle royal, the gimmick battle royal. We're not talking about that. But yeah,
Neither one of them was in the gimmick battle royal. Which gimmick battle royal?
Shit. I don't remember which one. It was either the first or the second. There's only two of them, but it was one of them. So he came out at the end because IRS won the gimmick battle royal, and at the very end of it, Ted DiBiase came out, paid off IRS. IRS gave him the gimmick belt, and then he won. He won the Rumble, the battle royal.
Okay, that had to be the second one because the first one at WrestleMania 17, the Iron Sheik won because he couldn't get up over the his knees couldn't make it up over the rope. So.
That's hilarious. I don't remember that. That's hilarious. That's great.
I watched WrestleMania 17 last night.
That's right. I am behind on my WrestleMania binging for the season.
So am I. So I'm just picking them off as I go.
Mm-hmm. I'll do that after this episode.
So the best Razor Ramon match to me, of course, and you guys already, if you don't know where I'm coming with this, fuck, you're blind. Dude, the ladder match. Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 10. The whole story started with that match I just mentioned where IRS lost to Razor Ramon at the Rumble and Shawn Michaels came out and bludgeoned Razor. And Shawn had been suspended and Razor won the Intercontinental title in this tournament. So you have the fake Intercontinental title and the real Intercontinental title, as it were. And they both get suspended above the ring in a ladder. Mm-hmm. And outside of Brett and Owen opening the show, no other match came close to this one on that card.
Typical Shawn Michaels going out there and upstaging the entire show.
Well, like I said, Brett and Owen were better. But this was definitely a clear number 2, and it was only because Brett and Owen was that good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But this set the stage for, teams like the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and every other ladder match on a big stage. This was the first. And while it's not as good in the car crash way as, say, the Dudleys, Hardys, and Edge and Christian, it was great in the fact that at the time the spots were so innovative. Shawn getting crotched on the rope and getting tied up. Just drop kicking the ladder, utilizing the ladder as a projectile. And my whole favorite moment of it is when they enter, Shawn Michaels makes the point to go, no, and go around the ladder. Because you don't go under a ladder, that's bad luck. Mm-hmm. Razor Ramon walks right down the dead center of the ramp and does his coast pose right through the fucking ladder. Showing that he didn't give a flying fuck about bad luck.
Bad luck? What's that? Yeah. Man, yeah. Like, Razor Ramon, he had a few notable matches and feuds. Like, he had a great match with Bret the Hitman Hart, in his first opportunity for the world title, because somebody couldn't make the match, so they subbed him in, and that was a great match too. Go find it on Monday Night Raw. You'll definitely like it if you haven't seen it.
Him and Bret at King of the Ring.
Yep, that one too. Also, his whole shindig with the 1, 2, 3 Kid, where Sean Waltman at the time was an enhancement talent or a jobber guy, whatever you want to call it, and he just kept getting beat up by Razor until the 1, 2, 3 Kid rolled him up for the 1, 2, 3 Kid. Or for the 1, 2, 3, excuse me. The 1, 2, 3 Kid rolled him up for the 1, 2, 3 Kid. My bad. So Razor put up $10,000 for him to take another match, and didn't that accumulate into like a diaper match?
The crybaby match is what it was actually called.
Crybaby match, okay.
Yes, and whoever lost it had to put on a diaper and a bonnet and wear a bottle, and yeah, that was where that happened because they started calling Razor a crybaby because when he put up that 10 grand, he got moonsaulted, the kid pinned him again and ran off with the money.
Oh, the good old days. We could do stuff on the 1-2-3 Kid too, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was actually a pretty terrible match, but
Wait, which one? The crybaby match?
the crybaby match. Yeah.
God awful. God awful match. Like from two of the best to ever do it, just god awful.
You always talk about your wrestle crap. Well, there's some of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that definitely falls under the heading of wrestle crap.
So let me add that to the chat here. Hashtag wrestle crap.
Please tell me I didn't teach you that term.
No.
Okay.
No. But usually, I've heard the term before, but the term I usually use that's just more general as opposed to wrestling centric is the word shinfo. And that just means shitty info.
Shitty info. My old boss used to use the term schnollage.
Schnollage.
All the Mexican and Portuguese people around here like to refer to it as cagada.
I'm not even going to try to say that.
You know. But yeah, it's. But that being said, of course, Razor goes on, the click happens, he, and he does the curtain call, and he decides it's time for him to go. He's beat up. He's been working nonstop for 4 years, 5 years at this point. Yep. He, he did everything from welcome Bob Backlund back to WrestleMania, where his match fucking sucked, to creating history with Shawn Michaels, to winning the Intercontinental title 4 times? 5 times?
I believe it was 5 times. I have this pulled up. Where's it at? He was 4 times. Yep.
See, I thought it was 4 because of the fact that Double J was the first to reach 5. But anyway, and once again, go along the way, making guys like Double J, Shawn Michaels, Sean Waltman, continuing the legacy of Goldust, having stellar matches with Bret Hart, Bam Bam Bigelow, all these guys. And then he and Kevin Nash decide to part ways with the WWF, which we'll get to the relevance of that. But what I wanted to talk about is the fact that those two characters were so important on WWF TV that they made it a point to utilize Glenn Jacobs to portray a fake Diesel and Rick Bogner to portray a fake Razor Ramon. And like I said, they can say it was to show, we own the character. We do whatever we want with the character. But in all reality, it was because they just lost 2 of their best characters.
Well, and yeah, I mean, typical WWE business where they're like, hey, we're going to keep the characters and we're going to insult the intelligence of everybody. where nobody was insulted. Where everybody was insulted, but nobody was fooled, is my point.
No. Yeah, absolutely not. Like, it was, these guys were not them. And the reason Scott Hall decided to walk away, like I said, banged up for 4 years, wanted to take some time off, go work a little bit in Japan, WWF denied him. And WWF at the time, they didn't have such a thing as guaranteed money. It was opportunity. It was like $25 to show up, and then you got to cut a house in merchandise sales, which at the time, his merchandise was doing phenomenal, but the houses weren't. And so he's on the road 300 days a year, and he decides after his contract runs out, WCW is going to offer him guaranteed money with half the dates. It's a no-brainer. So he hops the rail on Monday Night Nitro. He takes the microphone and very importantly says, "You don't know who I am, or you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. If you want a war, you'll get a war. And I'm going to bring my big friend with me next week. And he bounces.
Which, by the way, there's been like surprise entrants and walk-ons in the past. Like, WCW's big one before all this was Lex Luger with the first Nitro. Right? So,
Correct.
this is another kind of history-making moment where Scott Hall shows up on national TV. And I believe it was also opposite Monday Night Raw, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time. Give me a break.
Correct. When Nitro debuted, it started to be against Monday Night Raw, and Luger showed up at the debut of Nitro.
Yes. So Scott Hall doing the same thing, which, if I'm not mistaken, because WWE was taping TVs at the time, I believe Razor was like on the last like episode or two before he showed up.
It was a very quick transition. I don't remember if it was the last one or one. Yeah, it was immediate.
Yeah, so for him to show up, it was a big time surprise. It was something that people just weren't like ready for. And then the next week, he was right. He brought his buddy.
Not only that, but you're not talking about a guy who's, Hogan quit wrestling, and then they threw enough money at him to come over to WCW. Savage got tired of being in the booth and came over because they'd kind of put him out to pasture. Jake the Snake, had his addiction problems. They cut him loose. He goes to WCW. Scott Hall was none of that. Scott Hall, just like one Jon Moxley, was just fed up with the schedule, fed up with working to death for, a potential income versus a guaranteed income, and just wanted to go and knew that he was kind of plateaued. They were never going to do anything bigger and better with him, which, he's a bona fide star is where I'm going with this. Dude was a total star. He wasn't floundering. He wasn't showing the effects of age. He was just done. And he was the first example of what we're seeing heavily nowadays with ex-WWE guys is them going elsewhere and flourishing because they go into a better environment for them.
Yeah. Well, we all know what happens next. Kevin Nash comes in, and they start to take over.
The Outsiders.
That's right. Little by little. By the way, let's pull this up real quick. And just to add a little bit to it. I know you can't hear it, but I'm going to play the Outsiders theme song.
By the way, I'll agree with you on that, Danica. Scott Hall could have been billed on that same level, but I feel like he was almost on that Owen Hart Double J kick. He was Mr. Perfect being another good example. So good that rather than utilize him to be the star, he could make the stars. He was the one that helped, everybody he touched. I already named Sean Waltman, Shawn Michaels. Kevin Nash was elevated by being around him. The list goes on with all the guys that, because they came into contact with him, they had better careers. Because he gave them good matches and assisted them in telling beautiful stories. Sometimes led in telling beautiful stories. And sometimes if you're just too good at your job, you never move up. And that was kind of where I found him.
They call that the mid-Carter effect. And unfortunately, that is kind of a blessing and a curse to some people. But it didn't necessarily affect Scott Hall. Other mid-Carter types that were there, like Mr. Perfect, Jake the Snake Roberts. Even though he's been at the top of the card, Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Not so much in like history-making moments that Scott Hall has been a part of, but just some key players that have been there.
Well, yeah, that fall under that category. That either never reached the top of the mountain or once they did, just kind of, it didn't work. But that being said, we also know my beef with Dolph Ziggler. Dude just doesn't have a personality that connects with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean everybody. Scott Hall did. And that was the thing, is the outsiders come in as these villains, these ruffians, these invaders into WCW. But because of just how fucking cool they are, they're just so cool. How are you supposed to hate that? How are you supposed to boo that? These are the badasses that just jumped the fence and came in and started cleaning house and making people change the channel and start watching WCW. People stopped watching wrestling, period. Because nobody was watching WCW at the time, except for occasionally a Hulk Hogan match. And people were walking away from WWF. But when Scott Hall shows up and gives the illusion that this is a full-blown invasion, that the guys from WWF are coming over slowly to eventually annihilate their competition, man, people start watching.
So let's fast forward to Bash at the Beach. Nash and Hall, now known as the Outsiders, challenged Sting, Lex Luger, and Randy Savage to a 6-man tag team match, saying they had a mystery partner. Well, that partner turned out to be Hulk Hogan, and the three formed the NWO. And, the stable ran through WCW, recruiting stars such as Syxx or X-Pac, and the Giant, Paul White, Big Show. Dude, just those names right there. Even if they never did anything, that's still one hell of a faction.
Well, and then once again, not only was he in a faction with those, he touched all those guys. He influenced those guys. He helped those guys. Nikki Savage says that, the roster was too heavy. Scott Hall was main event in the mix of about a dozen in WCW. And I feel the same way about him in WWF. He just had the misfortune of being a babyface around the same time fucking Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were at the top of the card. Proven homegrown talents, as it were. It was kind of, there was just no more room at the top at the moment. So.
By the way, that's pretty awesome. I said Randy Savage and Nikki Savage appeared.
Oh, yeah. By the way, what's up, Nikki Savage? Welcome back. You and me still have to do a trivia showdown. I will never forget that until you kick my ass royally, because you guys still hold the record for 10 out of 10, and nobody's made it.
Yeah.
Nobody's tied you. Nobody's beat you.
Well, and I'm going to need your little help on this. My memory is a little foggy. So let's fast forward a little bit again. Another historic making moment in WCW was when Scott Hall did a little thing to cause a little effect on a person aptly named Goldberg. Okay, so, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not looking at anything right now, I'm trying to go off memory for once in my life, it was Kevin Nash versus Goldberg, and the streak was ended because Scott Hall came out and cattle prodded Goldberg, causing his first ever loss in WCW to Kevin Nash.
Correct.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. That's a history-making moment, because whatever number Goldberg had, was it 200 and 300 fucking wins? I don't and he goes down to a cattle prod by Scott Hall. Well, and a jackknife powerbomb. Yes.
But either way, the cattle prod's what did it. And no, once again, and then you talk about that historic moment. And those things are synonymous with Scott Hall. Because them coming across and firing that first shot, and then them revealing Hulk Hogan as their third man. And then, even though, Scott Hall just kind of got pushed to being the head lackey, as it were, of the NWO, because there was Nash, there was Hogan. Scott Hall didn't work on the committee. He just wrestled. he got kind of pushed to the back, but he was still there for all of it. And just incredible the whole time. But he was the first one to say, nah, I want better for me, which changed the landscape of the wrestling business and kicked off the Monday Night Wars and wrestlers fighting for themselves, for their incomes, for basically having somewhere to pit other people's money against Vince's, all because he rolled the dice first. So how important is that?
Extremely important, considering, the at this point for WWE, like, I'm not the biggest fan of WWE right now, and that's been noted. But back then, after he left, WWE was also sort of kind of floundering. So when he left, it put them in a position to rev it up big time. And I'm glad it did. It wasn't just Scott Hall, Kevin Nash as well. But, I'm glad it did, because now look where we're at in 2022. We have WWE. We have AEW, which, everyone likes to say it's just WCW again, which there are a lot of, apt comparisons. But it's the same thing that we went through with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall coming to WCW. They're not calling it wars, per se, between AEW and WWE, but they are competing. And
well, they called it the Wednesday Night Wars for a little while when NXT and then we're toe to toe.
Yeah.
But no, exactly. It's history repeating itself. There is another promotion out there with the weight of television, the weight of the internet, the weight of corporate backing on a high level, competing with the WWE, which once again has not been seen since WCW, which WCW didn't start to compete until Scott Hall showed up. So, of course, after WCW folds, he makes his way back to the WWE.
Yep.
And wrestles Stone Cold at WrestleMania 18. And, man, it kind of sucks because we already talked about that was when he was trying to be, he had just recently gotten sober, was on the Antabuse, almost asphyxiated thanks to the beer being spilled on him while his mouth was taped shut. But because of the reaction to Hogan by Toronto, they decided to just kind of ditch the NWO as fast as they could. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of it. And Hogan goes on his nostalgia run. Nash, tears a quad walking across the ring. Hall's kind of the odd man out, and battling his demons at the time. So he goes away. And then a few years later, this upstart promotion called TNA shows up.
Okay, so this is more of your realm, because I wasn't a TNA guy, so I don't know a lot of what happened in TNA.
You know what? Neither do I. I was not a TNA guy.
Okay.
Like, at all. I just know that there came a point when Kevin Nash showed back up, and then all of a sudden the music hits. Scott Hall walks in the ring, looks him up and down, and goes, "So wait a minute, are we dyeing our hair now?" Like, because Kevin Nash didn't have the gray going and he did. And my personal favorite moment about that was the fact that Scott Hall walked out in a Hatchet Man shirt. But just another one of those, once again, I've never been a huge fan of TNA. It's had its moments, the broken Matt Hardy era, of course, the rise of AJ Styles, Abyss. The fact that we've never gotten Abyss.
Fun fact, Abyss, I think he was laid off, but he actually worked as a backstage person for WWE.
Yeah, for a time.
Recently.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, fun little fact there. Oh, and let's not forget the X Division. That was a lot of fun.
The premise was cool, but nobody could ever just tell you what the X Division really was. But either way, it was another one of those moments of an upstart promotion showing up and trying to compete. And of course, who better to get than the outsiders?
Right.
So, but once again, just pivotal moment in wrestling. That's four pivotal, like huge moments in the history of our great sport that have revolved around, or at the bare minimum, directly involve Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm. Did
Most wrestlers don't have one.
No. Did you know? And I'm sure you knew, but I had no idea until today that Scott Hall was in ECW for a year.
Yes.
I was like, what? You know, I guess he had tag team matches with Jerry Lynn and Just Incredible and Rhino. You know, he also went to like New Japan Pro Wrestling again, tagging with Masahiro Chono and versus Scott Norton or Super J, the former Sting, NWO Sting. So that's cool to read. I didn't know that. I'm gonna see. Did they ever put ECW back on Peacock?
Yes. And his entrance to the Fugees is incredible.
Okay, yeah, that's what I saw today. That's how I figured it out because someone posted that. I was like, what?
Yeah, remember, almost everybody who got bounced from WCW, unless they directly went to WWF, they stopped in ECW for a minute because Paul Heyman was just like, hey, you got a name here. I'll give you some money. Come here real quick. Some people did good stuff with it, like Stone Cold and Scott Hall, and some people just were there for enough to say they were there, like Foley, and then keep going.
Oh, here's a worlds clashing kind of match. I didn't know what happened as well. In AJPW, he lost to Hiroshi Tanahashi when he was a rookie.
Correct.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, he wasn't so much an NJPW guy. He was more All Japan.
Yes.
So
no, that's what I meant. AJPW.
No, you did. I was just earlier. You mentioned New Japan. Like I say, if I'm not mistaken, he appeared there, but he was more All Japan.
Danica says, "I'm happy his son is making his way into the business." That's going to be interesting to see. I haven't actually seen what his son looks like. I mean, I'm sure there's some similarities. I would hope.
I just hope he's his own man. Like, I feel bad for Brian Pillman Jr. because he is Brian Pillman Jr.
Or, I mean, yes. Yeah, there's that whole thing. And then, did you ever see those interviews with Chris Benoit's kid?
Yes.
And how he's trying, or trying to get his feet wet in pro wrestling, and he's just like, yeah, I want to be Chris Benoit Jr. It's like, I don't know, man.
I understand, but there's no reason why the guy can't use his given name.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that's his decision. He's got to accept the baggage that comes with it, but it's up to him.
Okay, so Scott Hall's son is in Japan right now. Wow, okay. All right, well, he's got some good trainers out there.
Yeah. Get beat up by fuck everybody.
So, yeah, I mean, he comes to, as you said, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle in his second run to WWE. You know, the match with Austin, Hollywood Hogan, The Rock have, like, the biggest WrestleMania moment ever. Kevin Nash does Kevin Nash things like tearing quads and jackknifing people. And then TNA. And then, yes, he had a stint in Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Well, yeah, just because he was friends with ICP and they'd pay him.
All right, Lunchbox. ICP and Scott Hall walk into a bar. To finish the joke.
No. That you didn't tee me up very well there, buddy.
And I guess he returned a third time. Oh yeah. So he showed up. Oh yeah. And the other thing he did was the DX versus NWO at WrestleMania.
Ah, yes.
That was some good fun, corny time.
And that's what it really was, is it was just, an older faction coming and running out to bail out Sting, which was fun, and it was nice to see him. But more importantly, if I'm not mistaken, it was that very year he was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And a very worthy Hall of Fame induction. And I wouldn't say overdue because they timed it beautifully, but much deserved, and glad that it got to happen with him there, because that's, of course, where we got our, you know, hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad moments don't last, but bad guys do quote. And that was also where we got to see just one last glimmer. And thankfully, he was able to do it while living instead of posthumously, because that's tragic, man. We get that with Vader this year.
Yeah. And thankfully, we are also doing it with The Undertaker, who is alive and well, ironically.
And like Danica says, two-time Hall of Famer, both in there as Razor Ramon and in there as the NWO.
Right. So, yeah, like, you know, thank you, Scott Hall. Thank you, Razor Ramon, one and the same, for giving us countless hours and days and years of entertainment on our TVs. Thanks for keeping that whole mainstream pro wrestling thing going, keeping it competitive. Like, you started the fire, brother.
Yeah, thanks for making it mainstream.
Yep.
Thanks for firing that first shot. You know, once again, the man made a statement. You know, I talk about it was criminal that he never won a world title in a major organization. But he made the statement once that it's all fake anyways. A belt's just extra luggage I got to pack. And that's a refreshing outlook. You know, the fact that he was like, I'm in this to chase greatness, to make money, to have adventure, travel the world. You know, I don't care about a title. That doesn't matter to me. I'm in it for the experience and the paycheck. Mm-hmm. Can't argue with that.
The only thing that I'm sure of is I don't know, but I know that positivity works. And Scott Hall said that, and he's right. You know, if you manifest destiny, destiny will come to you. And that's what happened.
Okay.
That's what happened to him. You manifest that.
Yeah.
So a nice little affirmation for you. What are you talking about? You're over in Siberia. What? What are you talking about, Vanek?
I wonder if he means it's snowing over there.
Is there a Siberia in Virginia? I don't know. What's up, River? Rivar, what's up, man? Good to see you. Glad DDP helped.
Nikki says everybody should watch Slamboree 97, Hall Nash and 6 versus Piper Flair and Green. Oh God, no, that's a Scott Hall line that's just, I'm blanking on where it's from right now. And that was why I told you to hit me up earlier and tell me all your favorite shit. So, because I knew we'd fuck something up.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I mean, you know, for the next minute or two, drop some more favorite moments in the chat. Like, you know, this, you know, rest in power, Scott Hall. Thank you for all your time. You know, we put the show together on basically an hour's notice and whatever we could find on the internet and raking our memory of the last 20, 30 years of pro wrestling watching. So.
See, I just decided to watch my favorite match, which was, you know, the ladder match, and then the the Austin match. And I'm gonna send you to Siberia. We're over in Siberia. Like I said, dude, I know I should know this, so I'm fucking off this one. My bad, Vanek. Like occasionally I let a line slip me. Like not everybody can quote like Mike Vanek.
I mean, that's true. Actually, I'm a little disappointed in Vanek right now, because the reason I say this is we could have used your help by you putting more stuff in the chat, more memories. Where's all your Vanekisms?
Oh God.
Usually there's Vanekisms the whole show, and we got like 3.
You know what? He's been observing and watching, and he's probably out there hanging and banging out there at the shell. Dude, I should send you the video he sent me that explained his night. It was great.
Okay.
I should have sent that to you and just had you posted on the show.
So, just some while I'm reading these off, go ahead and drop some favorite memories in the chat so we can read them. But his filmography includes The Jerry Springer Show as Razor Ramon himself. In 2011, he was in a movie called E60 as himself. It was a documentary. Big Money Rustlers.
I forgot he was in Big Money
As a
Rustlers.
sign guy. He was on an episode of Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, The Larry King Show. He was in a part of the resurrection of Jake the Snake. A Table for Three on the WWE Network, or now Peacock. And Traveling the Stars, Action Bronson and Friends Watch Ancient Aliens. Okay. That sounds fun.
Danica Bloodwin suggests Bob Orton, Dickie Murdoch, and Scott Hall versus Inoki, Choshu, and Hoshino. Whoa. All right.
I think you're right, River. I think his first match was with Razor. Let's see. Jeff Hardy's first. Yep. June 6th, 1994. Razor Ramon versus Jeff Hardy.
Who lied about his age?
Mm-hmm. He was only, 16?
I couldn't remember if it was 16 or 17, but yeah, he wasn't 18 yet.
Yeah, so lots of door openings and, history making with this.
Once again, like I said, whoever he touched turned great. It was like Foley.
That's awesome. So, my friend, what is our plan next week?
Next week for episode 149, we will be previewing Blacklist Pro Wrestling's The Reckoning. And the only match so far to be announced is the King Fat Boy, friend of the show, Papa Esco, defending his Blacklist Heavyweight Pro Championship title against the man he pinned to win it, the egotistical psychopath Tony Vargas from the Bike Club.
That's right. Wait. Where's it? Where's my... okay, I don't have it ready. I thought I had the graphic, but it's not there anymore. But yeah. All right, so March 27th?
March 27th at the hallowed halls of Strummers.
Right. So I'll be making my way down to Fresno once again to yell in your faces on a microphone with my good buddy Lunchbox.
And maybe Mr. Smiles, we're not sure yet. He had to work last time because, one of our boys quit his shoot job and he either had to work that night or he had to wrestle that night. And, well, sorry, commentator, you got you got to go to work.
That's okay. Another thing to check out is, May 15th and May 14th and 15th, we have Dazed on the Green. Here are just one of the stages right now. I don't know if I have the other one ready as well, but this is the metal and punk rock stage with the Dead Kennedys, Municipal Waste, the Dwarves, Lich King, Boneless Ones, and more. And then the punk stage, we got TSOL, some good old-fashioned punk rock, the Voodoo Glow Skulls, Gutter Punk, Get Dead, and Wolfpack, and more. Dude, that's such a sick lineup. And then, let me see if I have the other one. I should have the other one.
Oh, the Sunday headlining stage, which is headlined by Wiz Khalifa, including Ice Cube, Cypress Hill, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Real One, and more.
Yeah, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of almost more excited for that stage than the other stage, and I'm not trying to pick favorites, but that's a badass lineup.
Dude, Cypress Hill. Like I'm straight up Cypress Hill. Like everything else is good. It's an outstanding festival all the way around. And guess what?
What?
Thanks to our boy Brian Sticky Tips, Talking Shop with the Boss in the Box are your media correspondents for the weekend.
That's right. We're going to be there. And hell, we might even be painted up. I don't know if you're going to be painted up. I'll try to be painted up.
I don't know, because I was going to paint up as far as in Nothing But Losers fashion. Our whole band was going to do it. But I believe my singer's working, so he can't paint up.
Oh, man.
Like, literally, he's working the festival.
We got to get that Skrilla.
Well, I mean, definitely got to make that fucking money, but he also gets to work that festival, which means he gets to watch that festival. So we're both pretty excited about it. And Brian, we here at Talking Shop with the Boston Box really appreciate you hooking us up with tickets. We're going to try and make it count, do some media for you, maybe bag some interviews, have a good time with it, because once again, we appreciate you thinking about us, and if you too want to get a free ticket for Dazed on the Green, you need to bring your ass up on March 26th to Ukiah to go see the Boneless Ones for $15, which the Boneless Ones are well worth $15 on their own. You will also get a one-day pass to Dazed on the Green, which is a $120 value. Actually, I think the tickets are on sale for $99 right now. But even still, after that sale, it's still $100 value, $15 for a show well worth $15. And then you get a $100 ticket.
Right. Also, real quick, before we leave, April 30th, for those of you here in the East Bay, Suburban Paranoia is playing locally. We're going to be playing on April 30th at the Red Caboose with our friends Rage of War and a brand new debuting band. They're called Dying Star, and they're pretty damn cool. That is also going to be a nice ticket drive because we're playing the next day at the Goldfield Trading Post on May 1st for an all-ages show supporting the band Power Glove, the very best power metal Nintendo Core band you'll ever see.
Oh, Danica Bloodwin, don't try and correct us on dates. You are a day early on that, but hang on, let me plug. April 30th, if you're not going to be up in the East Bay and you are going to be down in the Central Valley area, you should join us at Taco Fest when California Wrestling Association invades Taco Fest for our annual Dust Up with yours truly playing the role of ring announcer and show host. May 7th, you got a couple options there. If you're going to be down in the lower 209, you have in Atwater CWA's Behind Enemy Lines, featuring the only announced match between Diablo Azteca and the debuting Muggsy Cruz.
Oh, I can't wait for that. And you will be at Taco Fest alone, unfortunately. I will be at CWA alone, calling the action, probably alone, because it doesn't look like the King.
You've got to work on your art of surprise. That's not been discussed, announced, or publicly talked about yet, so keep that under your hat, or maybe crown as it might be. But the reason I will not be joining you at CWA's not All Out War, Behind Enemy Lines, is because the following week from you, will be playing at the Goldfield Trading Post in Sacramento alongside Wednesday 13 for the 20 Years of Terror Tour. Tickets on sale right now. Hit your boy Lunchbox up. Sorry you're wrestling, Danica Bloodwin, because you should be at Wednesday 13. It's your perfect scene. You would look perfect up there flinging blood with Nothing But Losers. But hey, we'll just have to go ahead and do that at another time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 148. We will see you next week when we talk about Blacklist Pro Wrestling and more. So check it out.
Mostly just Blacklist, though.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
What ball did I say, bitches? I don't know.